Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA. I'm KISMA, and today's episode is how to be extraordinary and why it matters. Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set.
Hello, Nick.
Hey there, KISMA.
What's happening right across the way in your chair?
It's a good day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like days are good when we decide that they shall be good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, good days. Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. Like, good days are usually just like the things that I wanted to have happened.
Because you did them, because you made a decision that you were going to do them.
Right. And then the other things that I didn't want to have happen, those things didn't happen.
Nice.
And that's a good day.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a good day has more to do with how you meet whatever comes your way.
For sure.
That kind of just being in the flow with it, and certainly having, enjoying the things that you do, enjoying your life and your activities and things like that. But it's in meeting it. Because otherwise, it's just like things don't go your way and all of a sudden it's a bad day. Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Does that have to be a bad day?
It does not.
It doesn't have to be a bad day at all.
Perception is everything.
Yeah. Those can be the days that you look back on too and you're like, dang, I really handled that.
I handled it.
Yeah, it was cool.
Which leads us to the topic of extraordinary. I think it is someone who faces each and every day and makes it the best day. I think being extraordinary doesn't mean that you're, it is extraordinary to climb Mount Everest. It is extraordinary to make $1 billion or 100 million or 10 million or whatever. Like, there's so many things that we think are extraordinary, but in actuality, when we were talking about this episode, I think the realization came for us that when a person is their authentic, clean, and clear self, that is extraordinary.
Like, I kind of look at it in a smaller way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of like a person who has a really difficult time, just dealing with their life,
Right.
And they're able to somehow pull themselves out of that and into like, all right, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, a lot of people would look at that and think like, oh, that's not like, what's so great about that? Like, great. Now you're normal, like that's kind of how some people think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like, no, like that's truly extraordinary. Like, that's an extraordinary feat.
Right. To pull yourself out of the depths of darkness.
Yeah. And
or
into
something that's going on and like get your head above water and 2 feet on the ground.
Yeah. And to land in a place where you're like, oh, okay, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
That's such a big deal. But I think more, in these terms of like, extraordinary, more in terms of like extraordinary achievement or something like that. I think most people want to be extraordinary in some way. Mm-hmm. The veil around it, I think the thing that, some people are like, well, I'm fine, or I'm fine the way I am and that. And I honestly think that there's beliefs built around that say, well, it's not okay for you to outshine. Mm-hmm. You're not worthy of doing that. Who are you to really, to shine that way? You're not, you're nothing special, like you're not that extraordinary. From whatever got programmed in there, I think those things kind of cover that up. But deep down, I really do think that people have a natural draw or a natural desire to really express themselves in an extraordinary way, express their nature,
their nature,
do what they're here to do.
Be true to their self.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are a couple things that prevent that from happening for people?
Well, those things that I just talked about, I think are some of the biggest ones, the programs that kind of sabotage that. You know, you don't deserve to do that. You're not good enough.
The voice in the head that one might listen to rather than their own true self.
Yeah. The not good enoughs.
The not good enoughsness. Yeah.
Like wherever that got picked up from.
Yeah.
You know, from family or just from maybe you just decided that along the way, like whatever. Those sorts of things I think really get in the way. And then there's the world that perpetuates that too.
Right.
Like the world definitely can take that and amplify that voice, so to speak. You know, with the
not enough, not good enough, don't have enough.
Yeah, you know, you're not so great. You know, that's cool, but that's not so great. Like people, I think people don't. There's no lack of people, especially on the internet, who create absolutely no content, make no contribution other than lurking around and just criticize everybody around them.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty.
And want to argue. And it's like, what did you create today?
Yeah.
You know, why don't you try creating something before you go there? You know, really create something from yourself and share something of yourself. And then let's talk about that.
So is it fair to say that if someone's carrying shame or guilt, it's going to be difficult to feel like they're living an extraordinary life, even though they might take extraordinary actions to, like you said, overcome something or to create something amazing. Yet if they're carrying shame or guilt, they won't fully feel extraordinary.
In themselves, I would agree with that. In themselves, they won't ever, no matter how extraordinary they already are or how extraordinary, like we've worked
they're perceived, right?
We know people like this, both colleagues in the business as well as, you know, clients as well that have extraordinary achievements. Like they've done so many super, super cool things.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but
they don't feel that authentic alignment.
Yeah. It's like, oh, well, that was just kind of a fluke. That's something I hear, you know?
Yeah. Or when's the other shoe going to drop if they do something great, all of that. So just to kind of make sure we're anchoring this in, because I think our version of extraordinary is, you can move a mountain. Yeah, you can make, millions of dollars. You can run a marathon every single day. It's when you really tap into your true self-expression and creativity that extraordinary, it's like that. It's going to light up inside you that you feel extraordinary because you're stepping out of every perceived box and limitation. And you're taking your life and deciding for yourself, like we talked about in the last episode, there's an element of trust and you're living it. And when you look at that, someone who does that up against all the odds of what the world is telling us to do or trying to get us to, comply to or be, like following your own path outside of any box, outside of anybody else's opinions, beliefs, that's extraordinary.
I totally agree with that.
And I think there's a level of confidence that happens when a person does that no matter what's going on, they're like, I got it. I have this sort of saying I joke around with my clients, like, it sucks and I got it handled. Like, all right, this sucks and I got it. Like there's a power in that. And there is an extraordinary flair in knowing that in the depth of your core.
Yeah. I think when you're talking about that expressing of your uniqueness and it's part of the brilliance of that is when that filter of insecurity is dropped.
Right.
And the self-consciousness around it. And it's just a pure...
do not care what people think.
Free expression. Yeah. It's just such a cool thing. Like to me, that's really extraordinary. It's really cool to witness that.
Right.
You see it. Like, I've seen it with great musicians, working at Detroit Symphony, and you see the soloists come through and the conductors and the guest artists. Like these are really extraordinary. Well, the musicians in the orchestra themselves are truly extraordinary.
Completely.
But then you see the guest artists come through and it's like when they're out there performing, it's like for a moment they get out of that.
Yeah.
You see it backstage beforehand of like the ooh, and then whatever. But then they get out there and it's like they step out of that and it's just like they just play so beautifully.
That's the difference between a really great artist and a good one.
Yeah.
It's in flow. It's like a state of flow almost.
Yeah. You drop that self-consciousness and the insecurity around it, and it becomes a really free expression of it.
So if we were to define for our listeners, say 3 things to do to like seize that extraordinary element, essence, energy of life, where would you start?
Wow, that's a really great question. One of the first things that comes to mind for me, kind of weird as it might be, is to just like geek out on the things that you geek out on.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff in there that is very kind of uniquely you. It's kind of like following the energy into that core part of yourself, in my
like a creative expression of what you really like to do.
Yeah. I have a couple examples for myself. Is one of them was just, like for how long I was kind of disconnected from music and that, and for my own reasons and from my own decisions, but as I've gotten more connected with it through the mystic sound healing and those sorts of things, like it's lit up a part of myself that really is exciting and it has brought out like a new kind of creativity it's impacted a lot of other areas of my life too.
Right.
So, that's one for sure. And another part for me is just geeking out on some of the things that I've enjoyed geeking out on, like since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And
play. It's like play.
It is. And that's important for me. That's not important for everybody, but it is for me.
You're an optimism person. You need that optimistic driver thing going on.
Yeah. But it helps to light up those different areas. And then it's like you get more comfortable in that space.
Right.
In the space of like, I don't care. Like, I'm just going to geek out,
Well, number 2 for me, just don't care what people think. Like, let go of other people's opinions, what they're going to think, what they're going to say. Just move it to the side.
Yeah.
Because then whatever you do, whoever you're being is way more authentic. You're just like, the fear's gone. To me, that's always the freedom point.
Yeah.
Right. Because I see when people don't make their big leaps or decisions or whatever, because they're hedging their bets around what people are going to think, or what if they fail, or this or that. So just drop it. And that will allow you to not only feel, but really be extraordinarily authentic.
I agree.
You'll sleep so much better at night.
Maybe not at first.
Maybe not at first, but once it's dropped, man.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because there's a process to that. People ask like, well, how do you do that? How do you do, how do you do it is the wrong question to begin with. Like, it's not really helpful. You do it because you decide to do it.
It's a decision.
But there is a kind of a process that you work through with that of dropping the importance of what other people have to say about it. And I think it's really helpful to just do that for 10 minutes in one situation.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just going to go into the store and I'm just not going to care what anybody thinks here. And you can just be a normal person. Like, you don't have to go in there dressed as a unicorn or anything. Like you can. Like,
or you could. Yeah.
I've seen people try to get over that with themselves. One dude laid down in the middle of a coffee shop for 10 minutes and just, I was like, all right. Yeah. Like, cool, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's your way to really face that within yourself, the worry about what other people are going to think. Okay. Like, cool. Like that's one way to do it. But you can just go out and be a normal person and then just decide like, okay, well, for the next 10 minutes, I'm just going to leave all that aside. Because what's really happening is it's an over importance that is placed on that.
Right.
There's too much importance placed on what they're going to say, what they're going to think. And the truth of the matter is, I don't know if this helps anybody, but most people don't care because they're too busy thinking about themselves.
Yeah. Or if they do say something, it just goes back to them.
That's right.
Yeah.
It really just reflects.
It just feeds their own ego or whatever. Like, it really has nothing to do with us.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. A lot of you our listeners are probably on our email list. If you're not, go to illuminationpodcast.com and sign up. But we send nice emails. Like, we're not sending like really harsh, abrasive emails, say it like it is. We've got, obviously both of us have a kind of unique voice. Every once in a while, man, you get one of those haters that just writes something back. That's just like, there's so much like, you're going to hell and like all it's like so weird, They can never punctuate. I don't understand. It's like, if you're going to send a hate mail, like, take the time to do some punctuation, for God's sakes, But regardless, like you'll get things like that back.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what's going on in their world?
Right.
And that's something that you can take with you into your life too. Is like, all right, well, people are going to have, no question, people are going to have their opinion about you, but mostly they're not thinking about you. And even when they are, it's what's going on with them.
Right.
Like that's what's going on with them. 4 agreements, right? Don't take anything personally.
Right. That's
He
a good
put
one.
it so well. You could just read that chapter again and again. And it really takes a lot of the charge and the importance out of that. And it brings it back to you, which is where all the extraordinariness, extraordinarily, I don't know.
Let's just move on.
I don't know the word for that. But that's where all the extraordinary, great, amazing stuff is right there inside of you.
So 1, be playful, have fun, geek out. 2, don't worry, don't care what other people think. What's a 3rd quality? If we pulled, I think from the 4 agreements, those agreements really create an extraordinary life.
They do.
What's one more that you would add in?
Well, as long as we're on the 4 agreements there, be impeccable with your word is always a really good one, but be impeccable with your word with yourself.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That means that when you promise yourself you're going to geek out, you're going to have fun, when you say, I'm not going to care what anybody thinks, or, when you choose to do something, like you're impeccable with your word, you do it for you. You stick with your word.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Because if we can't be impeccable with our word for ourselves, with ourselves, I don't think we will consistently with other people.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
And last episode, you talked a lot about trust. And to me, that's one of the fastest and most powerful ways to build your trust is to be impeccable with your word to yourself.
To yourself.
Right? Because it gets broken so often and so easily. And it's really damaging, actually.
It is.
But when you actually rebuild that with yourself, like it creates that kind of confidence that allows your natural expression to come through. It takes that self-consciousness out and it lets you just really express who you are. I mean, that to me, like that is really what extraordinary is.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. There's a great formula for y'all. I hope you do it. I hope you know how extraordinary that you are, because we see that and feel that in you. And as always, thank you for listening to Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA. And we'll see you next time. Much love and namaste.
Peace.
Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.